Have you ever pushed a game so far that it literally couldn't handle what you were doing anymore? Today, I'm going to show you how I crashed Vampire Survivors using the most overpowered character in the game. Breaking a game to the point of crashing is usually an incredible challenge. You literally need to push past the limits that the developers accounted for. I actually managed to do this once before, but when I tried to recreate it on an even harder map for this video, everything changed. This is the exact build I used to push Lady Sigma so far beyond her limits that the game literally couldn't handle it anymore. And the crazy part is, the key to breaking the game wasn't what I expected at all. By the way, I'm the passive-aggressive Canadian, and this might be the most satisfying game crash I've ever seen. Lady Sigma is the most overpowered character in Vampire Survivors. If you disagree, just wait until you see what we do here today. She basically gets a bonus to every stat in the game, has maxed out rerolls, skips, and banishes. All while having a full list of arcanas at her disposal. If that's not overpowered, I don't know what is. When you couple this with the right weapons and passive items to get your weapon evolutions, you get absolute chaos on the screen. So after a while, I figured we'd dive back into it since there's been a couple of expansions since then. Naturally, I thought I'd try and recreate this on an even more challenging map. One with more enemies, tighter spaces, and arguably, a higher difficulty. How much harder could it be, right? Oh boy. So we started off our first attempt just like any other, with all run gameplay mods active. It had been a while since I played, so I was a bit rusty on the arcana selections, but I did remember the core build. The plan was simple. Select our build weapons and passives on level ups, all while rushing to grab the key items for our build on the map. These are all protected by pretty strong bosses, which we took the time to defeat before moving on to the next item. A decision I would later regret. I managed some decent early evolutions, Soul Eater from Garlic and Pumarola at about the 11th minute, followed by Vandalier from Peachone and Ebony Wings at minute 14. Both of these items I heavily relied on when I crashed the game the first time. But I made two critical mistakes. First, I wasted precious level ups by selecting items I should have collected from the map, like the Attractor here and later Candelabrador. Second, I used banishes instead of rerolls, basically rendering my level up useless. By minute 17, I reached this cave, the most dangerous area on this map, and things started to fall apart really quickly. And just like that, run over at 19 minutes. I really had to rethink my approach. Or at least I should have. For run 2, I went in thinking I could basically power through doing the exact same thing. A decision that would lead to even more frustration. Just like before, I headed straight for the first item and took down the first Guardian boss. And immediately repeated one of my previous mistakes, picking up the stone mask as a level up instead of collecting it off the map. And after picking up the Attract Orb and defeating the second map boss, we managed to find something new. A shortcut to a different cave entrance. Unfortunately though, this discovery actually made things worse. The cave proved to be my downfall even earlier than before, dying almost immediately upon entering in. He did manage to quickly recoup and grab a Tirajisu. This gives us up to 2 extra lives on top of the one that we started with, which would prove to be quite useful, because these cave systems just keep taking us down. And although all those extra lives may have saved us from the caves, we would eventually get taken down again at the 19th minute. For run 3, it was time to get serious. I immediately grabbed a Tirajisu for those precious extra lives. We also finally learned our lesson about wasting time with those Guardian bosses. This time, we grab the item and run. We'll need these early minutes of the run to build our character up as much as possible, otherwise we'll get run over by the 19th minute. So we pick up our second map item in record time using the same strategy. Grab and go. Unfortunately, I accidentally triggered a third boss that was protecting an item I didn't even want, but there was no turning back now. He was onto my tail. Still needing Candelabrador from the cave, we took the shortcut again, but this time with a new approach. Instead of carelessly plowing through the enemies, I started moving more strategically, avoiding unnecessary damage. We managed to grab the Candelabrador from the cave and escape with barely any health left, but it's much better than last time. At this point, I had about 5 bosses chasing me around the map, but with Queen Sigma's speed, there wasn't much to worry about. After grabbing the stone mask from the map, we set our sights on the next target. Not for the item itself, but for the boss. We aren't just trying to crash the game by hiding in a corner. We also want to take down every boss on the entire map. And then, something incredible happened. We passed the 19-minute mark. Everything was coming together. We reached the next boss and... Nope. Now after 3 failed attempts, it was time to completely rethink our strategy. We'll break this down into 3 phases. First, we need to build the perfect foundation. We'll start things off with the Wicked Season Arcana at level 1. This doubles our growth, luck, greed, and curse at fixed intervals. And since we grab it early, we maximize those stat gains throughout the entire run. We immediately change up our level up strategy, using rerolls instead of banishes to get exactly what we want. Our second big change is grabbing the Gemini Arcana, which gives some of our weapons a counterpart. This setup isn't just good for Lady Sigma, it's perfect. Now for the weapons themselves. We start with Peachone and Ebony Wings to get a head start on evolving them into Vandalier. But here's the game-changing strategy we've learned from our failures. We're going to fill all 6 of our passive item slots before picking up any of the items off the map. Starting with Armadillo for the crown, more XP, Spellbinder, weapon duration, Silver Wand, healing, Hollow Heart, max HP, Torona's Box, increased might, speed, duration, and area, and Spinach, pure damage. With all our passive slots filled by the 8-minute mark, we can now start collecting items off the map and they'll be put on top of our 6 maximum slots. Just like in our last run, we grab Pumarola and run. No time wasted fighting the bosses yet. By the 11-minute mark, we've evolved Peachone and Ebony Wings into Vandalier, our first major weapon evolution. Then we grab Santa's Water to fill the empty weapon slot, Tract Orb from the map to increase our pickup range, evolve Silver Wand into Festive Winds at minute 16, our guns into Fioraghi by minute 17, and Santa's Water into Labora by the 18th using a Tract Orb. Remember when we couldn't even get past minute 19? Well now, our build is coming together perfectly. We do start losing health fast at this point, but luckily we managed to grab the Saraband of Healing Arcana. Just not quite soon enough though. We're so close to getting through this. We pick up one of our last additions to our build with Garlic, and just as all hope seems to be lost, something unexpected happens. Oh my god. This is it! The holy grail we've been missing all along. This soul solution creates a galaxy around us, damaging everything on the screen. And as an added bonus, it also makes us invulnerable. And just like that, we're at the 22-minute mark. With our build taking shape, it's time to set our sights on bigger targets. We evolve Garlic into Soul Eater using Pumarola, and finally make our way into the cave to get the elusive Candelabrador. And look at that, the cave that was so dangerous before is nothing to us now. We then grab Boogaloo of Illusions at minute 25, which makes our area fluctuate between negative 25% and positive 25%, while also giving us plus 1% area every level. The screen is now so filled with projectiles and effects that it's getting hard to even navigate. But this is just the beginning. After blindly making our way through the cave, we finally stumble across this candlestick and make our way out safely. And after holding our ground for the next few minutes, we make it to the 30th minute where the game does somewhat of a reset. Every time we reach an interval of 30 minutes, it's like resetting to the start of the game, except for the enemies have increased health and damage. Now that our build is established, it's time for Phase 2, Revenge Time. Think we can take down every boss on the map? Let's find out, shall we? At the 31st minute, we find a candy box from one of the chests, granting us 4 seasons as a weapon. So we level it up, grab a chest, and get its evolution, the Godai Shuffle, another powerful addition to our arsenal. Next up, those items on the map. We grab Motaglio right at the 40th minute. We also find a Super Candy Box 2 granting us Bloody Tear. We get Golden Ray at minute 43, Motaglio left at minute 46, and we're grabbing everything in sight now, even venturing into the dreaded cave for the duplicator. And this time, the cave is a breeze. Finally, we come across the Night Sword, but for some reason, seeing the description being might steal hearts made me think that it might steal hearts from me, so we leave it behind. We've now collected everything that crushed us in the previous runs. How the turntables have turned. But we're not here just to win. We're here to crash the game. And that brings us to our final phase. We've become unstoppable. But how far can we really push the game before it breaks? But first, let me break down exactly what's happening with our build at this point. Soul Solution here is absolutely amazing. This screen-filling galaxy not only deals massive amounts of damage, but also makes us invulnerable. Next, my personal favorite, Vandalier when paired with the Gemini Arcana to give us the Doppelganger, evaporates anything that touches this blinding light. We also can't forget the gumballs coming out from Fioragi. They may seem to be doing less than the other weapons, but do you hear that knocking sound right there? That is actually spinning lasers coming out from them as well. And if you're enjoying our blue background at the moment, that would be from our holy fire, Labora. Our area is getting so large that it just covers the entire screen. And finally, one of our latest picks, the Bloody Tear. This whip has grown so large that it basically hits everything on screen, healing us in the process. There is so much more going on with this build, but the screen is just so filled, it's hard to see anything else in action. So while we wait here for the game to process this chaos, this would be a perfect time to hit that subscribe button. Done? Good. Now with that out of the way, we actually decide that the next course of action should be to collect all the chests lying around the map that we left behind from Phase 2. After picking up the last of them, the game seems to still be holding on. We need something more to push it over the edge. We decide to hang out near the Jester at the spawn point while we think up a new plan. The game is lagging significantly every time that we open a chest, especially around the 130th minute mark. But something is still missing. And then, I accidentally bumped into the Jester. And we find the key to crashing this game. For 20,000 gold, we can buy another Arcana. Since the game will crash in the end, it won't be registering any of the gold that we pick up for this run, so we might as well use it. So we grab Disco of Gold, which adds a massive animation effect whenever we enter Gold Fever. The real game changer here happens at minute 212. We discover that the Jester respawns every 30-minute cycle. This is what should start to bring us over the top. With our invulnerability from Soul Solution, we can pretty much stay alive indefinitely, gathering more and more arcanas to overwhelm the game. At minute 240, we add Twilight Requiem, causing our projectiles to generate explosions on impact. Now each time that we're near the end of the 30-minute cycle, we hear that the game is struggling to keep up. By the 330th minute, there's so much going on screen that we can barely even find the jester. And finally, just before the 360th minute mark, with every weapon firing, every effect active, and the screen completely filled with projectiles and enemies, yes! The game literally can't handle our power. After 3 hours of gameplay, dozens of evolutions, and 7 arcanas, we pushed Vampire Survivors beyond its limits. So there we have it, Queen Sigma in all her glory. Of course, this is more of an endgame build, so if you want to try out the game or just need a refresher on what works well in this game, check out my beginner build on screen now. Take it easy.